Dominic Cruz has suggested we cancel the face-off with Strickland and Chimaev. It's too risky. The heat on this fight, this being the greatest grudge in MMA history, be a very bad idea to bring these guys face.
When I spot him anywhere close to that hotel, I'm grabbing my firearm and squeezing that trigger immediately. Sean Strickland just dropped a bombshell that's created pandemonium throughout the UFC and has officials in complete disarray. This wasn't strategic promotion designed for publicity or social media buzz. This was a raw promise to employ lethal violence, backed by Second Amendment reasoning, delivered outside any sanctioned fighting venue. It's language that triggers emergency legal meetings and makes executives wonder if they can lawfully proceed with this event. The line between professional athletics and criminal activity didn't just blur, it completely disappeared with that terrifying statement.
Went for the nuclear option, which he said, if I get confronted by Chimaev and his teammates at the hotel as I'm walking around New Jersey in some inappropriate atmosphere, I'm going to pull out my gun and I'm going to shoot. They said I'm going to defend and protect myself with my Second Amendment right.
The circumstances have reached such dangerous heights that Dominic Cruz, a seasoned sport veteran, has publicly suggested something unprecedented. His recommendation is straightforward and severe. Cancel the ceremonial face-off entirely. Remove any chance for these fighters to be in proximity before the actual bout. He's warning that putting Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev on the same stage during media events is basically igniting dynamite that can't be controlled. Usually the promotion feeds off exactly this explosive energy, but even they recognize this has ventured into legitimately hazardous ground. We're not talking about minor altercations or staged pushing matches. We're facing the genuine possibility of two professional fighters who've completely abandoned career boundaries and mentally entered territory where real violence outside competition seems inevitable rather than remote.
Fight stories, because see, this one thing that I don't like is manufactured conflict. That's called professional wrestling. If you got to make it up, I'm not interested. And I'll see right through it. But these guys have talked themselves into something.
Now examine the marketing genius concealed within this seeming disaster. The more the organization suggests an event might be too dangerous to safely conduct, the more intensely audiences hunger for it. It's reverse psychology that functions flawlessly, whether intentional or not. Simply by mentioning cancellation, they've converted what could have been another standard title eliminator into the most scandalous and captivating event the sport has witnessed. But nobody can definitively determine if this represents calculated promotional mastery or genuine organizational anxiety about what happens when these men encounter each other in some hotel hallway. Strickland has established personal boundaries and explicitly stated his readiness to defend them with deadly force when required. That signals a degree of volatility and chaos the sport has never previously confronted.
But if we back this up to its genesis, which is extreme couture in the practice room, Chimaev at 24 years old getting brought in and getting workouts. Sean is at that same gym, same practice time. In fact, I think that Sean was the one running the work.
We're observing a complete revolution in pre-fight narrative construction and promotional combat sports limitations. The industry has witnessed fighters targeting families, hurling objects through car windows, and continuing battles after official contests concluded. But nobody with a verified concealed carry license has ever explicitly declared their intention to fire a weapon during promotional duties. This places the organization in murky legal and moral territory no entertainment corporation wants to navigate. It forces everyone to pause and seriously consider where entertainment ends and genuine public safety threats begin. If Strickland's declarations contain any truth, the promotion isn't just risking a canceled fight card. They're potentially inviting a tragic incident that could forever transform the entire sports landscape.
Years ago, this was made after Kamaru Usman lost to Chimaev. Right then and there, and that was roughly October. Whatever year that was, feels like 3 years ago. Whatever year that was, but it was in roughly October. And we were told going into that fight and coming out of this fight, whoever wins fights for the belt next. So Chimaev beats.
Still, beneath all the shock tactics and explicit gun violence threats lies a deeper question about authenticity versus performance. The organization has consistently prided itself on authentic conflict, rejecting manufactured drama as scripted entertainment territory that audiences ultimately abandon as empty. When hostility must be fabricated, core fans simply won't emotionally invest. What makes this uniquely disturbing is the possibility that Strickland and Chimaev have repeated their aggressive rhetoric so consistently and intensely that they've genuinely convinced themselves it's real. It's mental warfare that's become internalized, a perpetual aggression cycle. They've created something neither the athletes nor promotional apparatus may possess the ability to manage or stop anymore.
I mean, Sean said something to the effect of, well, I'm going to have to face him. They said before the fight, this is #1 contender. You know, nobody's called me. I haven't been offered this fight, but I'm following the sport. This is going to be my opponent. I think it's a little fast. I don't think he's done enough at 185 to deserve this opportunity, but it's going to have to be Chimaev. And Sean left it at that.
To completely understand how situations declined to where cancellation became realistic, you must trace back to their relationship's beginning. Remove the sensational headlines and provocative social media posts. You have to return to the training floors at Extreme Couture years ago. A young Khamzat Chimaev, just 24 then, appeared as an eager prospect desperate to establish himself, and who was instructing those sessions was Sean Strickland. These weren't enemies meeting initially with pre-existing hatred, they were training partners sharing identical facilities, motivating each other toward mutual goals. They practiced together, sparred together, and temporarily maintained professional respect that seems completely impossible to reconcile with today's animosity.
And that fight was to go down in Vancouver. And that fight for the title involving Sean Strickland did go down in Vancouver. It just was not with Chimaev. It ended up being Dricus du Plessis. And so right then and there, we never heard about Sean and Chimaev again. That road went very cold. Dricus had his run, and somewhere along the way, Chimaev solidified himself at 185 pounds. And
their mutual background contains remarkably little genuine conflict or personal treachery. There were no explosive gym confrontations, no dramatic loyalty accusations, no theatrical exits creating permanent bitterness. Chimaev may have simply ceased attending training eventually. There was no fighter recruitment, no bridge burning, nothing typically indicating serious personal division. It was basically an unremarkable administrative transition, not personal devastation. This reality makes the current hostility inferno more puzzling and incomprehensible. If these men successfully cohabited for years within elite training's pressure environment, why does everyone now believe they cannot safely share promotional space for 60 seconds without potential gunfire?
before we finally got, okay, Sean Strickland is now the #1 contender. By the way, Chimaev is the champion. Chimaev got the belt from the guy that took the belt from Sean Strickland. We got a nice little round robin, and competition says these two have to match up. And that's how we got here. We didn't get here because of some kind of hate or hostility. We didn't get...
The genuine origin of this booking has nothing to do with personal complaints and everything to do with divisional rankings' cold mathematical reality. This fight was statistically unavoidable the moment Khamzat Chimaev defeated Kamaru Usman last October. The consequences were obvious and absolute from the start. Whoever wins this contest receives the next championship opportunity. This was logical progression determined by competitive hierarchy and organizational framework, not a vendetta originating from betrayal or disrespect. It's simply professional mixed martial arts merciless advancement system where victories create progress and losses create departures. The personal hatred dominating current storylines is a recently manufactured addition to what was initially a very simple sporting arrangement.
So when we talk about we can't face these guys off, is the grudge really that big? Was the feud really that big? They used to train together. They agreed to fight 3 years ago. The fight didn't happen. They don't train together anymore. Here they are back fighting. So let's...
Strickland's initial public reaction to the Chimaev fight announcement was notably calm and professionally grounded. He didn't resort to threats or dramatics, instead offering reluctant recognition that this constituted a serious challenge he couldn't decline. He even admitted that while Chimaev might receive preferential middleweight treatment, it remained a fight he was required to accept. He acknowledged both the threat and skill level his opponent possessed, almost providing a hesitant compliment disguised as critique. It was a champion's mentality examining a complex puzzle requiring solution. There was no firearm discussion or hotel lobby confrontations, so what fundamentally changed? How did we progress from reluctant professional acknowledgement to promotional cancellation's brink?
Is there really a reason we can't face these two off? Are they just so uncontrollable? Are their teams such maniacs? I don't know about that. As the week ticks on, I'm going to be catching an airplane. I'm going to be flying out there. I'll be at this face-off.
The trajectory toward this collision dramatically shifted when Strickland lost his title to Dricus du Plessis. Suddenly, the entire competitive environment reorganized. Chimaev continued his devastating divisional campaign, destroying Robert Whittaker and establishing his reputation as the weight class's most dangerous contender. As both fighters followed separate trajectories on different schedules, underground tension developed away from public scrutiny. Immigration speculation and political connection rumors only deepened Chimaev's mystique, while Strickland intensified his unfiltered confrontational public image. The separation between them allowed their mutual hatred mythology to grow far beyond their actual history's justification. Now circumstances have realigned most dramatically possible. Strickland stands as top contender and Chimaev blocks his title path. It's perfect elite competition convergence. The organization didn't create this matchup through promotional manipulation. They arrived here because competitive rankings offered no alternative, but they've created serious problems by allowing rhetoric to escalate to explicit lethal threats. They've constructed a situation where the face-off becomes enormous liability. Cancel it, they sacrifice promotional momentum. Proceed, they risk total event collapse.